so I'm going to now quickly share an Excel sheet which will take us through identifying different sampling units and looking at data and how it should be prepared while starting to identify your sampling size and then your sampling methods, and of course then actually deciding who you're going to be speaking to. So let's look at a typical Excel sheet, right? So what I have here now is we have around, based on the data, we have 120 schools. This is the name of the school. This is the state that the school is in. So we have 3 states. So over here we have Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. We have the student size for each school, the total number of students, and eventually we have a total student size of 9960. We've also, based on the number of students, we've classified the schools on small, medium, and large. And then we have the number of teachers per school, which amounts to around 476 teachers across the program. So this is what ideally when we start any sort of sampling is to look at different units. So in this case, the unit is schools, the unit is states, the unit of measure sampling unit is students, and of course teachers. Now let's go step by step. The first thing that we attempted to do was to look at the total schools in each state. So we had 56 schools in Gujarat, 33 and 31 schools amounting to a total of 120. If we look at the representation, it's around 46% of the students or the schools are from Gujarat, then followed by Maharashtra and Rajasthan. So this is just a basic calculation of 120 as to what is the percentage representation. We then look at the total students across these schools, and we see similar trends where Gujarat has around 47% and Maharashtra has 26% of students, and this has Rajasthan has 27%. Now, what we could do is looking at the sample size calculator, we could put in 9960 into what we learned in our last module. So our population is 9960. We want to keep a confidence interval of 5 and we calculate. So this comes to around 370. Now, owing to our budget constraints or what we've decided, somehow we said we're going to take a sample size of 300. Now, if we even take, for example, what is the say? It says 370. Now, let's just change the number here and put 370 and change this here. So this is 370. What does that give us? 174. And this is again 370. And this is 370. So what we've done over here is we've taken this percentage. Yes, we've taken 47% representation of Gujarat school students, 96% of Maharashtra, students from Maharashtra, and we have taken students from Rajasthan, which gives us this representation. So what we've tried to do here is to look and ensure that we have clustered schools according to states, looked at proportion to percentage to ensure we have adequate representation based on their overall representation to the universe. Now, what we also want to do is ensure that we have a mix of large schools, medium schools, and small schools. And so if we are looking at the total schools, we see that the highest representation is from medium schools. So we said that assuming that we in each school we take around 20 students, we will have to choose 15 schools because our earlier number was 300. So say even if we assume we want to take 25 students from each school, we would, perfect. So we would get about a sample of 15 schools. So these are estimates that you must make, that you want to take a certain number of students from each of these schools. So that says we're going to take 15 schools in our sample, and we want to ensure that we have adequate representation. So now when you look at this, we see that 18% of 18% of our sample schools, 15 is 3, 8 and 5. So we just taking a few more here because we want to ensure that we have adequate representation from the states too. So what we do is, we have now looked at the 15 schools. We have now said that overall our sample schools should be around 16. But then before calculating this, what we looked at is how many large schools are there in Gujarat, or how many medium schools. And then we started saying, all right, so if there are 2, I need to take 2 from Gujarat because it's double of the ones here, and 1 each from Maharashtra and Rajasthan, which is why we've just increased it slightly to ensure that we are taking a mix of large schools and we are covering all the three states. I'll say this again. So we have now, based on the representation, we've said we need 3 large schools, 8 medium schools and 5 small schools. All right. But when we start looking at this breakup of type of schools, we see that we should take more schools in Gujarat, at least 1 more, because it's double of the actual school size. Here, while there are 30 and then half and half, we've still taken 2 schools each in Maharashtra and Rajasthan and 4 schools in Gujarat. And again, looking at the sample size, in Gujarat we take 2, Maharashtra 2 and this one, so it's there. So now we know we have to take around 17 schools and we're going to have a sample size according to states in this way. And then we will start deep diving and going into preparing our respondent lists. So let's jump into the presentation once again. We have considered all sampling units. So we've looked at, like I mentioned, states, schools, students and teachers. We then said we will do a multi-stage sampling. So we'll cluster schools according to geographies and states. We'll then stratify schools on school size, and then we will randomly select students to ensure gender representation. In this Excel sheet, we haven't looked at gender, but then we will deep dive and start looking at what's the male, female, all of that. We then looked at sample size calculators. We calculated a 370 size. So you will calculate some sample size, and then you will start building your sample frame and your list of students or even teachers for that matter. You'd have to do the same exercise for teachers. You would start creating respondent lists based on, you have to reach 17 schools and 370 students and how you're going to break that up. So I think what we should conclude this module with is you should go back and fill in the template of sampling process, wherein or even work on the Excel sheet that's shared with you to really understand how these processes are undertaken, and maybe also attempt to figure out a sample size for the teachers under the scope of this study. Thank you.